Hey everyone, this is the Smash at the Den podcast, and this is going to be our basically fall 2019 podcast for the fall quarter. And basically, what this podcast is just we're going to talk about basically a recap of the quarter. But first, we're going to introduce who we are. So, I'm Suvir, I'm one of the officers for the club for the past 4 years.
I'm banned. I'm also one of the officers.
Now I'm robots. I'm a new officer starting with this quarter.
Yeah, so I guess our last time we used to have Nick on the podcast, he was a bit busy with when we were recording, but it's basically going to be the same thing we did the last quarter, where we kind of just go over a recap. We um, go over the PR, and then we talk a little bit about next quarter and what we hope to do. So I guess starting off, we can start with the recap of our quarter. Band, if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So for this quarter, we were doing $2 tourneys because our main goal was to just make the tournaments accessible for students and not really focus on outside people. So just giving everyone a chance to be in the tournament environment with low stakes, just for experiencing tournaments for the first time for a lot of people.
Yeah, so with robots joining in as one of the officers, I think he also was a fan of like our right robots with our idea of like doing a few more tournaments than we did last quarter. I think.
So
Yeah,
yeah, me as a player, it was really fun going to these brackets like every 2 weeks because you get like sit down and get the experience of like a local, but very close to where we live. Like especially people live in the dorm like me. So it's like really close by. We could just show up and just play in this tournament,
yeah,
especially for $2. It was
yeah.
very, very
Because one
nice.
of the advantages we had with like for example, robots coming in as a new officer with like this being his second year is that he was able to kind of give us like some feedback with how the tourneys are supposed to, like what he thought about the tourneys too. So like being able to settle in on like, okay, we're gonna focus more on our school player base this quarter really helped out. So I
Yeah.
think we did like what, 5 tournaments this quarter.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of
So
tournaments.
we did 3 of our normal Smash at the Den fall 2019s, and then we had Scrub Mountain followed by the fall quarterly. So we can go ahead and talk a bit about these events. So let's start off with the first event, which is our Smash at the Den fall 2019 number one. Do you guys? I'll put a few bit of the information we talk about on the screen later when this is released. But for us right now, looking at the bracket, this was kind of like an interesting tournament, I think, because this was
Yeah.
where David got upset by Gooby, who was like an outsider, I believe.
Friends. He was friends with J Dubs, which is
Yeah,
one of
yeah,
the
yeah.
new
Just came way out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was also just like a lot of us getting back into playing
Game
offline
again.
Smash for the first time in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I guess some of these upsets could be like expected. Gooby did beat Nanook and he did beat me as well. But other than that, some things to highlight is just like we had a lot of new faces really
Yes.
just entering in general, and a lot of people who came back from last quarter and did a bit better. I don't have any specific names for this bracket in particular. One of them may
Yeah.
be Bonathan that we can bring up. He got his win over Zing Zam here, but
Oh yeah, this would was it this tournament?
yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
this tournament, yeah.
That
Oh
So
was
yes,
the time an oldie was able to take a set off PR.
that's true.
yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
was a PR.
So yeah, this tournament in general was like the first tournament of the quarter. Um, it seems like some of us were starting off a little bit rusty, I'd say, on the PR side at least, with like Zing dropping a set early and David's dropping a set early. So
Mm.
like it's just something to note, I think, in my opinion. But I think it ended up being a really fun tournament
And
overall.
also, I also want to note that we had like 46 entrants in this tourney. Like, was that like is that a lot compared to the weekly like the tournaments we had last quarter?
Yeah, so I mean, even looking at the tournaments we had this quarter, for example, aside from Scrub Mountain and the quarterly, this was our biggest event, which is what we'd want to expect from our first event of the quarter.
Yeah, that's kind
And
of crazy.
Yeah.
lot of people showed up, and I'm pretty sure like 90% of them were UCLA students too, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Majority were definitely UCLA. I think
So it's like
Gooby was the only real outsider at this one
yeah,
event.
And milk quartz.
milk
And Milk
courts.
Quartz, yeah, Milk
So there's
Quartz.
just two.
Yeah, so we only had two outsiders. So it's always good to see like the UCLA community showing up to our events.
I feel like that's really special for like in our case, because I feel like in other schools they get mostly like outside students that are
Yeah,
there.
and it really shows that our focus with doing the $2 tournaments and really trying to get,
Yeah,
our school
$2.
to
The
show
$2.
up, it worked out really well.
Yeah, the $2 tournaments really helped. Especially, I'm pretty sure. I think most of them were actually people living in the dorms, probably.
Yeah. I'm sure, a lot of people came out for the first time, just from the dorms. They may have seen us at the activities fair and decided to show up. So I guess that was a great start to the quarter with, the first event, and then we moved on to our second Smash at the Den, which had 44 entrants. Um, a few outsiders coming, like our
Yeah,
alumni Tsukasa, I think, was
got
there.
some of his friends. Yes.
Yeah, and he brought a couple friends up who did really well, Aeon and Swift, and Venus as well from outside UCLA. And then,
The wackiest Luigi I've seen.
yeah, he was pulling off some crazy combos. Other things really to try and note here. 44 entrants, just two less than the
Yeah.
previous tournament, so that's still really good. Even though a bit more of them are from outside UCLA, like it's still a good amount of, like I'd say probably like 30 something are from UCLA, definitely. So
Mhm.
show's really good. Anything else about this tournament that we really want to go over?
No, I think
No.
it's pretty straightforward. And
Yeah, I
like
think it's
just
pretty straightforward.
We'll
Melon
talk
got
about individual players later on, anyways.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's really good.
Yeah,
So the
and
next one,
then we had our third event,
which I think this was the one of the most interesting one, Master
yeah,
Mario.
yeah. So Smash at the Den number 3. We had a few outsiders come, Master Mario, Raffy. It was one of our smaller tournaments due to I think the Veterans Day weekend or whatever it was. We had a 3-day weekend for sure, and so a lot of
Yes.
people, didn't show up. They were busy enjoying the weekend. May have gone home. So we only had 28 entrants here, but we did have attendance from Master Mario and Raffi and a few of Master Mario's friends as well. I think that
Yes.
one guy, and Roy Mar, and Gooby was there as well. Um, yeah, so this one was a bit of a smaller bracket. I'd say is like how I say it, and then we had a lot of outside representatives there.
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah, and then I guess now we can really get into Scrub Mountain, which was one of the biggest events of the quarter.
Yeah. The
So,
quarterly in Scrum.
yeah, um, I guess, Ben, you could talk a little bit about how we set like what Scrub Mountain was before, and like how we wanted to bring it back this quarter.
So Scrub Mountain was an event that started, I guess, in the Melee days, where it was just a way to get people who were intimidated by all the good players to come to an event where they felt like they could do better and not get knocked out round 1 or 2. And so this quarter we had no idea what was going to happen, who was going to win. We all had different ideas. It ended up being robots that took it, but a lot of old people showed up, a lot of new people showed up, and it was really interesting. We didn't know what was.
Yeah, I think one thing also to point out is that the like for example, last quarter we had a Scrub Mountain that was really exciting for a lot of the newer players, and for them to be like with that being like their first ultimate Scrum Mountain that we've hosted, a lot of them got to come back and with their improvement over the rest of spring, summer, and a
Mm-hmm.
bit of the fall, it was like a great way to see like how some of these players improved without having to have them face some of the top players at our school in the early rounds. Robots, I guess you can talk a little bit about it as a player in the event. What did you think about like how it was ran, how it was, set up, stuff like that?
Yeah, so very similarly to like last quarter, the last Scrub Mountain, it was ran pretty really well actually. A lot of movement, a lot of people got their matches. It was really interesting to see like how just like in my perspective is how much I improved since last Scrub Mountain. Because last Scrub Mountain I got like 25th or something. So I was like, I was really nervous coming into it because a lot of people were thinking, a lot of people were predicting me to win it, and also others. So I was like trying to live up to the.
Yeah, I think one thing to note is just like everyone, a lot of people had that mindset, like okay, last quarter I was not as good as I am now, so now that I've improved, it's time to see what I can do in this event because this is kind of the event a lot of people look forward to in their for the quarter because it's like the event to be at if you're trying to see how you've improved. And I think a lot of people did get that out of this event. They got to
Oh
see
yeah,
where they stand relative to like without having to deal with the pressure of like, okay, I'm going to play a ranked player right away and then I'm in
Mhm.
losers already.
Yeah, for sure.
I
And I
another
think
thing. Oh, you could go ahead,
one of the
Dan.
cool things about it was that we had a bunch of other stuff even if you weren't playing. We had commentary. We had put more emphasis on commentary.
Mm.
We had a res bracket, right?
Yeah, we had a res
Oh
bracket as
yes,
well, which I think
res
our
right?
flag, yeah,
Or
our
our flag,
flag, our
yeah,
flag,
perfect.
our
Our
flag
Mm-hmm.
flag.
took the res bracket, and it was a really it. We were basically focusing more on like, okay, this is an event to come to if you want to play more matches than you normally do. Really, just trying to get like more of the community to play more and like enjoy the tournament setting. One thing I also want to point out is that we did split it up into pools, which I think was more exciting for people. I don't know what you thought about it, robots. Like being able to see, like, okay, I have this pool, and then if I do well here, I make it in the top 16, and I get to
Oh
see from
yeah, for
there.
sure, for sure. Like, so like one of the people like I was really afraid of to fight was like Bonathan, Melon, and like and Defo too. Because Defo was still we're still really good.
Yeah, I think in general, just having like the pools there
Yeah, it was
really
really fun.
helps, like,
Organize everything.
yeah, organize it well, and it really helps with running the event. And we did
Yeah.
charge more than we usually do for this one. We did $5 for singles, but we also did pay out all the way to top eight, which is
Oh yeah,
some
for
like
sure.
these players usually don't get paid out at the normal tournament. So it
Yeah, for
was
sure.
an exciting experience for I imagine most of the people who got paid out to finally get some money from the events. So that was Scrub Mountain. Um, we'll talk more about some of the notable people who may have done well there later. But let's move on then to the quarterly, I guess. Last event that we had in the quarter, and we
Hmm.
got basically all of USC to show up.
Oh yeah, USC rated
Nasta Mario, Jump Steady,
Marvelous
And
Marco.
Marvelous Marco brought a few people too.
yeah, Marvis Monco and his
Yeah.
carpool as well. Um, Overall, I think this was um, a really it started off. I felt like we kind of had a fewer setups than we really wanted, but it all worked out in the end.
Hmm.
Like I don't know when at first it seemed like okay we're getting like 60 players or whatever, and we don't have like more than 10 setups. Like this could be a disaster, but
Yeah.
it all did work out in the end.
And
um,
Nanook protected UCLA.
yeah,
He
yeah,
outplaced everyone. Outplaced all the
Low key,
USC.
everyone
yeah.
else at UCLA busted a little bit.
What?
Not
When?
really, but
I don't think they did. They're pretty. All the top eight were really good players. Papa Frank, Aloha, and Smoothie.
yeah. I mean, I think that overall, like USC, brought show that they may have like more of a consistent top, but they don't have like that top player. Like Nanook was able to get third at this event despite
Yep,
all
outplacing
the
all USC.
Yeah,
yeah
he protected us. He won.
yeah.
He won.
He protected us from USC, so that was exciting to see. Um,
Hmm.
So next up, we can go ahead, I guess, and talk about some of the newer players that we really saw come forth, like freshmen and basically, yeah, mostly freshmen that have come into the club and basically how their impact is. So, robots, you want to start off with talking about maybe a few freshmen that you found
Actually, yeah, I could
to
talk about
be
the like.
notable, or like basically like you saw them starting to show up a lot more, as the quarter
So
went on.
we could talk about like a few people each of us.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
I could just talk about Wu and like Bibis because they're the people who showed up a lot, like especially to our like random DGen Denev plays when we just be in Denev playing, but they will show up all the time, and in the brackets as well. So especially Wu's like he had like a growth. I feel like since he started going to tournaments, he went like I think he went like low placements at first, but he started to, like really get higher and higher placements as the quarter went on, which is really
Yeah,
good.
I think at Scrum Mountain he really had like his breakout performance, Woo, where he made it out of his pool in winter side, and that was
Hmm.
really impressive because I don't think he was seeded to do that way. Um, but that was
And
really impressive, and I think in general, he's starting to show a bit more of an understanding of the game and his character, and do really well. And as for Bibis, I know he's in a bit of a character crisis right now as well, but
yeah, I see him play like different characters like every day.
yeah, I think he's trying to figure it out, but we always appreciate him showing up with his setup and being so
Oh yeah,
enthusiastic
oh yeah, he
to.
plays in the cubicles. It's so great.
Yeah, he's always out there playing. I think another person that goes along with those people is Pig Guy. He didn't show up right at the very beginning, I think, or actually he did. He showed up at the first event, and
Oh yeah.
he he started doing really well just off the bat. I think and he's shown a lot of improvement with his Pokemon trainer, and he's kind of one of those. Like I'd say those three have been showing up a lot to the DGen brackets and just to every tournament they can, and really show a lot of the drive to really get better at the game.
Hmm.
So, Ben, did you have anyone that you really wanted to highlight?
Yeah, I guess I was gonna talk about one person, Walt Luis. I'm sorry you're stuck with that name. It's your fault for bringing it into the Discord. Your vendor, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't even know his other tags like Volvieron, but he'll forever be Walt Luis. He's stuck. Um, he's someone who's shown up. He brings his setup when he can, or what he has. He doesn't have a monitor, but it seems like he always we need someone with a setup. He's always like, oh, I brought mine.
Yeah, I know. And sometimes he has like he's willing to bring even, I think he has like a big TV that sometimes he brings out to
Oh
Denev.
yeah, he's brought that a couple times too.
And, even
Yeah.
though it's a hassle to bring such a thing, it's
Yeah,
very,
yeah.
I appreciate that he's always out to do that. Some other people that consistently show up that, like Roy, for example, is a new freshman, I think. Always
Mhm.
showing up to each of our
The new
events.
resident Peach player now that Josh is gone.
Yeah, J Dubs too, and um, I think our flack as well. We mentioned he won the res bracket at Scrub Mountain. All these players are really coming out whenever they can.
Yeah.
Most of them showing up almost every week, and really just pushing to get better. So I think those are mainly most of the freshmen that we could talk about there. Are we
Hmm.
And we
forgetting anyone?
appreciate and we appreciate all freshmen showing up for our tourneys and showing up
Yeah,
to
yeah,
our
yeah,
events as a club because they are the future.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
for
it's great
sure.
for them to have a great. I feel like it was a great start for freshmen at this quarter. We had a lot
Yeah,
of freshmen.
and it's cool to see, like these freshmen are starting to even form a bit of their group of their own to try and train up and get better at the game. Like I know Pig Guy, Bibis, Woo, Roy.
And Roy, they're
Yeah,
all
they're
together.
always playing together whenever they're at the Nev and trying to get better. All these players really showing the drive to get better, which is really exciting to see.
And they are getting better.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
by far. And really, I think the best way to really get better at Smash is always to form a group of friends and really just train with
Yeah.
them. So it's exciting to see that happen with a lot of these freshmen. If we didn't mention you, we don't mean to offend you. It's just like these are the people that we've seen consistently. So we thought we'd mention them and just really say that we appreciate that they're showing up, and bringing their setups and working hard. It's kind of exciting to see on our side.
Yeah.
So I guess next, with all this stuff out of the way, we can really get into the exciting topic, which is
Oh boy.
the
Oh boy.
the fall quarter PR. So I guess Dan can talk a little bit about like what the PR entails, like what it means to be on the PR, what you need to qualify for the PR, stuff like that, and how we're gonna go, what order we're gonna discuss the PR in.
Yep. So PR is basically just a measurement of someone's overall performances in the period of time. It doesn't necessarily reflect skill per se, so the ordering is not exactly number 2 is better than number 3 or whatever. It's just based purely on the results of the tournaments. And so what we as a collective have decided uh, is required to be in PR are basically we value consistency and good wins. So people who make into PR generally they can't place really low. They have to beat someone PR or near PR, and do that consistently or
Yeah,
relative consistency.
yeah,
Mm.
basically having those consistent results. Let's say an outsider shows up, like even if they like if they're doing like if an outsider shows up, it doesn't really affect like our PR. We look more so how like you placed amongst the UCLA students, since our PR is only for the UCLA students.
Mm-hmm.
So really, it's basically just like an overview of the results of the quarter and basically where we see that a sort of you know who our top players based on the results are at this after this fall quarter. Basically, looking at all the tournaments from the quarter.
Mm.
So before we get into it, I just want to say that one, if um, these are purely results based, we've looked at the results. So if you're upset that didn't make it or something, like we'll feel free to talk about it. But we only ranked 6 people, and we did it based off the results of all the tournaments. So we can give you the numbers to back up why we chose each of these people. So, um, yeah, it's purely results based, like Ban said. Um,
Mm.
and then I guess the other thing is just like we're gonna start with the top. So we're gonna start with like our number one and go down to our number six, since we think it's more exciting that way. Um, so I guess robots. You could start talking about our number one player for the quarter. I think everyone. It's not really a surprise to anyone.
So our PR number one player is none other than Nanook David. His Palu and
Yay!
Scrum.
Mostly Paolo though.
Yeah,
Mostly Palu. Mostly Palu.
mostly
But
He's a
he's
Palu.
gonna
Scrum
work
main,
on his
but he
Scrum.
mostly plays Paolo.
He said he's gonna work on Scrum.
Uh,
So yeah,
yeah,
so it at let me see how many tournaments. He got first in the first 2 weeklies.
yeah. I mean,
He got
first
first
at
consistently, and
uh,
and when outsiders come like invade us, basically, like in the third tournament, he got second place under Master Mario.
yeah. I mean, basically, what I
Making
think it sets David apart is just like he's always placing the best out of any of the UCLA students, even if we have the outside players there. And
yes,
he has shown that he can compete with some of the top players who do come to our school. Like he's taken games off Master Mario, Jump Steady. He's beaten Rafi and Marvelous Marco. So
take 2 games off of Master Mario. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So
He's literally
basically,
never placed lower than any other UCLA this
yeah,
quarter.
Yes, he was the
yes,
highest UCLA student in every tournament.
yeah. In every
And
tournament, he's just outplaced any other UCLA student. So there's no real doubt that based on the results, he's the top player at UCLA.
without a
So
doubt.
so next we have number two, which is band. Um,
And
yeah. So band started off the quarter really, really strong. Basically only losing to David, I think, at the first 2 events.
Mhm.
Um, second place and second place each. So
yeah, it's like
uh,
it's got a mirror.
yeah, and then after that, we see a few lower results, but still like not losing to any like players that we'd say aren't like PR level or something like that. I'd
Yes.
say.
And I think I'm the only. Am I the only UCLA student that's taken a set off David?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think so.
That's true. You're the only one who took a set off.
Yeah.
That's
So your nest, right?
my nest is pretty sick. I don't know.
Your nest.
My link.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh.
So yeah, band, with those 2 second places, and then just like still showing solid performances for the rest of the quarter, like
And
not
basically
losing.
at it's like, and still at like at the up top, like near or like above all the other UCLA students. It's very similar to Nano, just below.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just
Three.
decently.
So for our third place on the PR, it was Zing Zam.
Zing zam.
So only really showing up to 2 tournaments this quarter, which
But
is
placed really high.
yeah. I mean, it was hard to tell at first based on his attendance whether he'd make it, because attendance is one of the things we do look
Yeah.
for the PR. But obviously, we all knew he had like the skill to do it. So at the first tournament, he got fourth, beating me and Milk Quartz, and just showing like his only real losses were he got upset by Bonathan there, and he lost a set to David. But it was basically like a very solid performance from him. And then
Solid run.
at the quarterly, he took out a few USC players, Ogi and Aloha, who on their own are very strong
Very good.
players from
From
USC.
USC.
And he lost to Master Mario, and USC, they said that their number one player at the time was Smoothie when we asked for the seeding. So only losing to USC's best and Master Mario is definitely not bad. Yeah.
So Zigzag has shown that he has the skills to keep up despite not really showing up to that many tournaments, but his results showed why he deserved to be PR.
Yeah.
We all knew he was PR level. It's just a question of showing up.
Yes.
Yeah.
So band, you can say the next one.
So we got number 4, Suvir, of course.
Yes. Suvir.
One of the only PR takes sets off me consistently.
Yeah, I mean, so I think the main thing, I think between me and Zing, the results are somewhat close, but like at the 2 events we went to, he outplaced me by 1 round. So,
Yeah.
you know,
It's very
like
close.
the wins and losses are like pretty close, but that outplacing by 1 round does matter.
Right.
I have like the peak, like it's pretty close between us. Like I have the peak win on band, but then his peak win is Aloha. So it's hard to like equate the two things when like one of them's outside UCLA and then one's like in UCLA. But overall, like I think the top 4 did not were all PR'd last quarter and stayed on the PR this quarter, whether the order changed or not. I think beside from David, like the next 3 are all and really close in their own category. And we gotta start to attack David a bit more. We gotta see.
I took a step. I'm getting closer. We'll see.
Yeah, we gotta see how it goes. But we did say we're PRing up to 6 players, so I guess we could start by saying the next 2 players have. None of these players have been PR'd on our ultimate PR before, and they're both have been working really hard, showing dedication to getting better at the game. So starting with our number 5 player, the Scrub Mountain winner himself, More Robots.
Hello.
So really, I want to point out Robots' consistency throughout the quarter. Really only dropping, like, he's basically, after the first tournament, he's lost to Nanook at most of the tournaments after that he was in, right? At least the next 2, and then
and I believe Nanook was the only PR from last quarter that I faced
in the bracket. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
never played in the bracket.
having that one PR loss and then losing to someone usually who is also like in contention for PR and just showing consistency with his results. Ninth at the first tournament, seventh at the next, fifth at the third, first at Scrub Mountain, and then 13th at the quarterly, which is still a very good performance.
Yeah,
Mhm.
tying with Band.
Yep.
Yeah. And his losses at the quarterly were to Papa Frank and Smoothie, two players who
Yeah.
both made top eight at the quarterly. So,
Yes.
just showing he's, you know, stepping up way more than he did last year. Just showing huge improvement and consistency, really. I think his best win is on Gooby, and then he has wins on Melon, other names that may be significant, Defo, Nick, Bonifim, um, all these players who are very solid. And, Robots has shown that he's a little bit a step ahead of the rest of the unranked players from last quarter, winning Scrub Mountain and stuff like that.
Hmm. Yeah, I just want to mention one thing. Like, I just really like think about my improvement in the game, even though it may not seem significant, but to me it really does. Cause like I look back at last quarterly and I got 49th the last quarterly.
Mm.
So it's like, so to go from there to what I am now, I feel like I think it's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something to be proud of. You've definitely shown that you're, working hard, always showing up to DJing at the Nev and play all
Uh,
the time.
I hope that works out in the end. As in school wise.
School wise, for sure.
Going to the net.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's very well deserved. Basically showing, pure consistency and showing he's a step ahead of some of the other non PR players from last quarter. So,
Band. You could
Ben, do you
take
want
the
to
last one.
introduce the last player that we've ranked?
And our final PR for fall 2019 is Bonathan.
Bonathan.
Yeah, so I guess talking about Bonathan, he showed up to three tournaments this quarter and did pretty well at all of them. One
Yeah.
of them
Mhm.
being Scrum Mountain, where he got third, losing to Melon and Jay, but having a huge losers run, beating
Yes.
people like Arcane, Almond, Retrace, Hunter Owner, and really just showing,
Fair.
that even if he did have an early loss in his pool, but he showed like he was able to bring it back all the way to third
Yeah.
place.
For
Yep,
Um,
sure.
he has his a good win on Zing Zam. His worst loss was Jay, but otherwise he was really consistent.
Really
Yeah,
good.
and I think also like as you get lower on the PR, like the wins matter more than the losses at that
Yes.
That's
lower
true.
boundary. So like, showing that he's able to compete with take sets off people like Zing Zam and
Yes. Very important.
beat people like Arcane like consistently or stuff like that. Um Basically like he's been pretty consistent aside from the loss to Jay, and he has that good win on Zing Zam, which really sets it up to something not even like no one else has really taken a set off the a PR player that high with this level of skill.
Yes.
So that completes our fall 2019
Oh,
PR.
19 PR.
I guess we can talk a bit about some other players who really did well this quarter, but didn't that may have not had like the consistency or the results necessarily, but are still very solid players. Um, I guess Robots, if you want to start talking a bit about a few of the players that maybe some
Notable players.
honorable mentions that we can bring up or whatever we
So
want to call it.
notable players that did really well this quarter was like Melon. He got second at Scrum Mountain. Gave me a good run for my money.
Took a set, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
it was
took a
a
set
long
off
set.
Robots. I
It
mean,
was a long. But our
I
sets were
mean,
long.
when Melon's playing on point, he's definitely like able to keep up with the PR players. I'd say.
Oh, for sure.
It's just like sometimes uh, he runs into something he may not like a matchup he may not know or something maybe or something off that day and It causes a little bit of inconsistency, but in general, like when he's on point and playing well, he's a very scary player to play against, and a really solid player in general. Another player that's done really well this quarter is Zik, Nick, whatever you want to call him. I think he's changed his tag from Zik Nemmels to just Zik now.
Just Zik now.
But
Very
yeah,
straightforward. Very cool.
yeah, but Nick, one of the big things I wanted to point out is just like last quarter he had a lot of inconsistency, and that was kind of like the idea that when someone would think about Nick is just like he's has really good peaks, but he's inconsistent in general. And aside from really the first tournament this quarter, I think he's been quite consistent with how he's placed.
Yeah, I'll say he's right below, like pretty close to
Yeah,
PR.
I think like for example, if he got like that one good win, or like just like had a more consistent, uh, I think week one or a little bit higher at Scrum Mountain, like he could have potentially made the cut. Um,
Mm.
but he's shown that this quarter the real thing that I wanted to point out is just like his consistency has been a lot better than it has in the past.
Yes.
Um, like aside from that first tournament, like I said, he's been consistently placing seventh, ninth, and then fifth at Scrub Mountain, which is great to see. Because I know that he wants to get better so badly. So seeing the consistency come through this quarter is really important.
Mm-hmm. And we could talk about the next person.
Yeah, Band, if you want to bring
Oh,
it.
okay.
Oh, Arcane?
Yeah.
Alright, so Arcane, we've always had high hopes for him. He's been in a bit of a character crisis with Palu, but even despite that, he's been doing pretty well. Even at Scrub Mountain, he got, fourth place. Lost to first and third, or second and third. And he's just been doing pretty well, but yeah, it is tough when, he's trying to get off Palu, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's been.
of a drug,
I think he was consistent in his own
Yeah,
way.
like
'Cause he got nine.
he was right
nine.
underneath that
Yeah.
PR level, but he
Mhm.
was just consistent right there. And I feel like if
Yeah.
he got like a good win or a few better placings, it would have been there. Like I said with Nick or Melon,
Yeah, for sure.
but these three players, Melon, Nick, and Arcane, really
Really great.
showing that they can compete when they're playing on point with the PR, and I hope to see good things from them next quarter. Hopefully, they can push a bit further with their results and maybe make it onto the PR. So speaking of next quarter, Ban, do you want to really talk about some of the stuff we have planned going into the next quarter?
Sure. So this quarter, like we said earlier, it was focused on just putting competition together, putting people in positions to, be in a competitive environment. But next quarter, we're talking and we're thinking about putting a little more emphasis on the community aspect. So having
Mhm.
some more events other than tournaments.
That's
Um,
true.
so first event that we're thinking is another squad strike. Everyone seems to have a lot of fun just like being in teams and like not taking everything super seriously. We're thinking about doing some having coaches or some other things. So there's still some stuff in the works, some exciting announcements to come, but that's one of the first things that we have planned.
Yeah, and then I guess another thing is we're trying to bring back a form of the ladder system. If any of you were here last year, you kind of know how that worked. Basically, it's a way to get people more matches, which is really going to be our focus. I think one thing we discussed is just like we have such a great group of new players who are really trying to get better at the game, as well as like form groups of their own and get a lot of experience. So one way we can like help cultivate that is just by having a system that also allows for more matches with players similar of skill level. So we're still in the works of exactly what the specifics of the system are, but we're going to try and alternate a few like out a few brackets and maybe have this new system and see how it goes. on some of the weeks we don't have brackets, just to see if it's something people may be interested in. And the hope of
Yeah,
it
so
is just we get more matches for people.
yeah, more matches for the people in general to have fun, get together, more
Yeah,
community.
because
And
what
for
we
anyone who's trying to improve, more useful matches.
yeah,
Yeah,
because I think the main goal we're looking for while developing this system is going to be getting matches with players of your skill level.
yeah,
And
for sure.
so, like, one thing with the Smash Ladder last quarter and winter quarter was that over time, it did start to spread out to where you'd match up more with players of your skill level. But we're going to try and get something going where you get consistent matches, like, without having to wait in the queue for so long, so you know who you have to play right when you come in on the day of, or something like that. Rather than having to queue for 15 minutes and then find a setup for 15 minutes, it'll be a lot quicker, hopefully.
Mhm.
So then, robots, if you want to talk about some of the other stuff we have planned, like,
Yeah.
um,
So the other stuff we have planned for next quarter to like bring the community together to have people have fun is like viewing parties. So I feel like we reserved a room for to view Genesis for next
Hmm.
quarter.
I think we
And
got pizza set
yeah,
up.
and we're still
food.
finalizing. It will probably be on the hill, I think, is what we're
Yes,
aiming
it's gonna
for.
be. Pretty sure it's
Hopefully,
gonna be
and
Bradley Hall.
yeah, and
Yep.
we're hoping for Bradley Hall, but for right now,
Mm-hmm.
it's guaranteed to probably be on the hill. So it'll be the Genesis Sunday, like the top eight. We'll
Mm-hmm.
all go out and to wherever it is, and just we'll have some friendly setups, and we'll all be watching and cheering on our favorite players at Genesis and seeing how the event goes. Um, and then another thing I think is we're gonna try to have maybe one social event as well. I think was in the works. So
Yeah.
the details on that aren't out, but we're trying to do maybe a social event somewhere where we all take a step away from Smash for a day and just do something else as a group. And then
Mm-hmm.
I think the last real thing is we're just gonna have another quarterly, similar to our fall quarter one, and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully we'll see how it works, but may be able to get a bigger turnout or some other players to show up that couldn't show up last time.
For sure. For sure. For sure.
So I guess that really wraps up
Wraps up
the
everything.
podcast. Basically, if you have any feedback for the club officers or just in general about like what you thought about the quarter or anything, feel free to comment on this podcast, or just send either a DM to an officer or just say something in the social channel in the Discord, I think.
Hmm.
um
Yeah, just let us know, and we'll appreciate and we like acknowledge your feedback to improve.
yeah, so anything else that anyone has to say?
Oh, I could say one thing. Cyber Monday is coming up. If I don't know when this podcast is gonna be out, but look, if you don't have a monitor, look for monitors. Get
All right,
monitors.
all right, all
Yes,
right.
monitors are important for setups.
Yeah.
Unless we're
So
gonna have the Nev Grand Finals.
so yeah, I guess if you're looking for a setup, hopefully you can find a monitor on Cyber Monday or over Christmas or something like that. But otherwise, always feel free to reach out to us, and we hope you have um, a good winter break and a good finals r- period or whatever you want to call it, finals week. I guess we could just reintroduce who we were. I was Suvir.
This is banned.
This is Robots, and we're signing out.
All right.